It's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Jasper Fullard Jr., MD. And we're going to be discussing his amazing book, The Impossible Dream. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And quickly, before we move any further, I do want to take this opportunity and point out that Jasper was brought to our network, People of Distinction, by one of the best publishers in the business, Author Reputation Press. So if you or anyone you know have a book that they'd like moved, people, I'm telling you, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give, okay? Contact ARP and have their fantastic team move it for you. They're one of the best in the business to do it. They specialize in really creating your literary developments, okay? And they're one of the publishing companies that you want to align with. And if you want to find out more information with them, head on over to their personal site, authorreputationpress.com, and see what they can do for you today. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Jasper here on the line. Now, I want to point out that we're going to be talking about one person's experience. Now, this is not a blanket statement and by no means covers everyone's. But I think that there is so much wisdom, there's so much value to be gained in Jasper's words, not only in the words that we're going to be covering today during this short interview, but the words that are on those pages. And I'm telling you, the education is real. The wisdom is second to none. And we're just going to scratch the surface here today. Because by the time we are done, you're going to run to his Amazon, Barnes & Noble pages, and you're just going to have to figure out more for yourself. Because what Jasper has been able to accomplish in the face of so much adversity is inspirational, okay? And you're going to agree with me that we could not have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction than this man himself. And without further ado, it's his life, he lived it, and he's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. So let's bring him here with us, okay? Jasper, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Listen, the pleasure is all ours, okay? We're really looking forward to this, and I mean it, man. Again, coming from the background of the community that I come from, this is something that I have faced a number of times throughout my experience. I know a lot of people, and I'm aligned with a lot of people that are in the healthcare industry. And this is something that, again, is very prevalent to me. And I know that there is a wide range of my audience listening base that will also be able to relate to your words. So thank you very much for being a guest. And thank you for comprising this fantastic work of art to share with the world. Now, without further ado, Jasper, because I know we have a lot of information to cover, The Impossible Dream. Tell us a little bit more about your narrative as well as your background, please.
Yes, I'm actually from a family of 11 children. We were a very poor family from a very small country town in Georgia. And we underwent quite a problem with the racism in this little country town. My father was a sharecropper, and of course, being a sharecropper in Georgia meant that you did what the white man asked you to do, but you didn't actually share any of the profit very much. So we were a very poor family trying to survive as sharecroppers.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jasper, talk to us a little bit more about your book, because I know, again, listen, man, just that background and just right there where we start, it's relatable content already. But when we talk about the impossible dream, what was that dream that was deemed impossible?
Well, as I indicated earlier, coming from a small town, actually there were only one doctor in the whole town. There were no black doctors. And this is probably true in most small towns, country towns. And this happened to be a situation wherein my mother developed a severe nosebleed one morning. and was bleeding severely. We was trying to help her by using towels holding up to her nose to try to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we realized that the bleeding was not stopping, so we had to take her to the only doctor in town. And this doctor had been known for not wanting to treat blacks in the community. So we kind of knew that before we went there. So we went to the waiting room about 10 o'clock in the morning, holding the towel, trying to keep her from bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And it was noted that we would have to wait until all the other white patients had been seen in the office. And it was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon before she finally got service. And I remember that was a very, very important experience for me. I remember telling my mother, don't know why I said it, that one day I was going to become a doctor so black people would not have to suffer like that. And I don't know, considering my situation, while I would make a statement like that, knowing that I could not afford becoming a doctor.
Wow. Well, listen, what's incredible is, again, given your background, given a lot of the obstacles that were already placed in your path, listen, that title is there, right? Jasper Fullard Jr., MD. So you've accomplished that dream that seemed impossible. Now, a follow-up question that I want to go into is, since you've accomplished that dream, Jasper, I think I can assume the answer to this next question, but you know what happens when you assume. So I'm not going to do that to you. I have you here on the line. Let's go directly to the source. What inspired you to write this narrative and put it out for the masses?
After all the struggles that I went through and the things that it took for me to receive my initial degree, this CBS degree, and then a master's degree, and later into medical school, I was asked questions frequently. How was I able to do all these things, knowing that I was a very poor kid, a kid from a poor background, and actually with very low educational background as well? How I able to accomplish all these things that I had accomplished? And this was quite a mystery, not only to others, but as I thought about it, it became more of a mystery to me as to how I was able to navigate through the problems, the obstacles, the struggles that I had to go through in order to accomplish what I had accomplished. So I knew that I had to do something that will be a way of leaving something behind after I'm gone that would allow others to read and to understand and to know, to inspire and to motivate them to do similar things that I had done in terms of trying to reach their goal. And I wanted to get to young people. I wanted to get to older people, people in general, to let them know you can accomplish almost anything if you become determined that you want to do it and motivated and carry with you the spirit of God with you.
Absolutely.
So those were the issues that I had at hand at the time that I wrote the book, and I decided to put this in print.
Jasper, thank you very much, because that's really where I wanted to go, right? Is we talk about the strength of the human spirit facing such, well, what seems to be insurmountable odds. And you are living proof. You are a living testament to what we can accomplish, as you stated, when that dedication, right? When that focus is placed in the correct areas, and I think it's stated often, but I don't think it can ever be stated enough how important representation is. Because I too remember growing up and looking for people that looked like me in areas that I was in. And there wasn't many of them, right? So I think what you said was so powerful and so profound. It carries so much weight. because this is going to move mountains for other people that look and come from a background similar to yours, but don't see people around them in positions on which they want to strive for. And I think that in and of itself is amazing, and what a wonderful gift. People, I'm telling you, Amazon and Barnes & Noble are where you have to go. The Impossible Dream is the book that you have to pick up, and Jasper Fullard Jr., MD, is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. You know, Jasper, I want to go a little further in depth here with this next one. We know that your book culminates with your experience and your background dealing with racism on your journey through the medical field, prior to the medical field, but also working through it. Talk to us. You started off by telling us what your mother had experienced, right, with that one doctor in the small town in which you come from. What were some other experiences that you had to deal with regards to racism or, prejudice on your journey?
This was quite a lot of pressure on me, being the only black that was in my class at the time, the medical school class. Mm-hmm. And it became a situation wherein the focus was always on me. Number one, there was always an effort to try to reveal to the other students that this kid shouldn't be here, that he's in the wrong place. And there was a constant effort to try to show that I didn't deserve to be in medical school. Being the only black student in the class, there was about 150 to 200 students, made it very difficult for me.
Wow.
The one thing that I had in my favor that did help a little bit was the fact that I had gone on to school and received a master's degree in zoology and had received a lot of training in embryology, anatomy, and physiology from my undergrad, and went to school initially for a PhD in anatomy and physiology. So I had gotten some experience in those areas that the other medical students didn't have. Mm-hmm. So eventually, some of them had to come to me and ask me for my guidance and my help with those areas. So, but it was a constant problem for me, struggling, trying to show and trying to let everybody know that I deserved to be there, and I was going to be a doctor just like the other medical students. So it was tough, but yeah. I was determined that I was not going to allow anything to deter me or to turn me around.
You know, Jasper, this last answer that you just gave reminds me of something that I, too, have experienced, and I know a lot of people that come from marginalized communities can relate to. And I dream of the day where we can be in situations where, hey, it's just talking about from a black perspective and coming from a black community. Because I know, listen, I've been in situations where I'm the only black kid in the class, right? Or I'm the only black kid in the entire school. And you're put in this position where you now have to represent an entire community. And you have to do twice the amount of work for half the credit, right? And there's so much pressure that's placed on your shoulders because you know that if you act in a certain way, you are now shaping and forming the perception of an entire community. And when you're around people that don't have the experience with black people or don't have the experience, again, with people from marginalized communities, that weight becomes almost unbearable at times. And I think that, again, it's massively unfair. Okay, that's an obvious statement. But as I started off by saying, I dream of the day where that isn't the case, right? Where it is so common. And I think that as a society, we're moving in the right direction. I mean, listen, we're moving as slow as molasses, but we're moving, right? Slow progression is still progression. Right. But I dream of that day and of that time where that doesn't have to be the case. Oh man, this
Yes.
is so much larger than words on a page. This is a movement. This
Yes.
is one person's experience. I'm sorry, Jasper, go ahead.
I was going to say that what made it much more difficult for me, I was married and had two children at the time. I was in medical school, and having to depend on my wife working, I had to babysit my kids at night while she worked, and I went to school during the day, which made it very difficult for me. I could not take advantage of a lot of opportunity to study and so forth like the other students. So I had a double pressure on me at that particular time. But I was determined. I think my decision to go to medical school was based on something that I could not forget, and that was my experience with my mother. So I kept pushing. I kept saying to myself that I had to accomplish my goal. So that's what kept me going and kept me pushing.
Yeah.
Not even to think about the financial pressure that it put on me at that particular time.
You know, listen, Jasper, now you're just rubbing it in, okay? We knew you were impressive before, but my goodness, you were going through medical school while raising two children. Wow. People, I'm telling you, listen, you have no excuse, okay? Whenever you go against any of your day-to-day challenges or adversity, you have no excuse because you got to look at Jasper's background. You got to look at his journey. And you got to say, like, listen, if he was able to accomplish what he accomplished, facing those challenges, having those responsibilities on his plate, ooh, Mike, I'm telling you, a person of distinction through and through. Jasper, thank you so much for that. Listen, I want to quickly switch gears here because I think it's very important to bring up this next point. I know that you helped create a nonprofit organization, a nonprofit medical organization for people, again, coming from marginalized communities. Talk to us a little bit more about that organization that you helped create.
I never forgot the promise I made my mother that I was going to try to do something to try to help prevent blacks from having to go through the same problem I had. When I finished medical school, one of the things I wanted to do was to do as much as I could to help my people in the community. And there was an organization I joined in 1987, and I became the chairman of that board. And at that time, that organization was focusing on physicians. And my concern was not so much the physicians in the community, but also the people in the community who had a lot of healthcare disparities. And someone needed to try to do something about the problem they were having. Hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disorders, and other medical problems that blacks tend to be dying three times more so than whites. This was an issue for me, and when I joined the organization, we focused on those chronic diseases that tend to impact blacks more. We did programs in the community, in the churches and community centers, where we educated blacks about these chronic diseases and tried to help them avoid the devastating effects of these diseases. So my whole life, and I'm still on the board of that organization 30 years later, but I served as the chairman of that board for about 20 years or more, and it became a part of me to try to do what I could in the black community, try to eradicate the problem with healthcare disparities.
Listen, what can be said that hasn't already been discussed? If this interview hasn't moved you, listen, pinch yourself. You're asleep, okay? This book is so amazing from so many different areas. As I stated before when we first started, such an inspirational story from a medical perspective. So for my medical professionals out there, or my young people that are aspiring to move into that world, this is the book for you, especially if you come from a marginalized community. But I'm not going to limit it to the black community. I'm not going to limit it to other marginalized communities. I'm putting this out to everybody, okay? I don't care what the skin color is that you have. This is a book for you. But even if you're not in the medical field, This is a story of inspiration and a story of perseverance that needs to be on everybody's shelf. Because what Jasper has encountered and what he has overcome is really, when we take a step back and we look at it from a macro perspective, we're talking about the strength of the human spirit here. Regardless of background, regardless of color, regardless of community, situation, or anything, the strength of the human spirit is incredible. How dynamic human beings are and what we can accomplish when we truly dedicate ourselves. This is amazing. You all know Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I said it before. I'm going to say it again. It's called The Impossible Dream. But when you dedicate yourself, there's nothing that's impossible. And Jasper Fullard Jr., MD, is living proof of that. This is a fantastic resource to add to your shelf, an even better gift to add to someone else's. And as I stated, it's so much bigger than a literary creation. This is a movement. This is a lifestyle change. And if you can take the book, read in between the lines, and understand that, listen, as my grandmother would say, now you're cooking with gas. And you're onto something special here. Head on over there, pick up your copies today. You can thank me later. Jasper, this has been an absolute pleasure. Such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Wonderful interview.